Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Late Saturday night, some more massive news for Hugh Freeze. The Auburn Tigers coming out of the recruiting trail. Five-star edge rusher Jared Smith committing to this Auburn program. Hugh Freeze in Auburn. I don't think there's a program hotter on the recruiting trail than this Auburn Tigers team. And you take a look at what Hugh Freeze is doing along the line of scrimmage in that front seven on the defensive side of the football. There's not many programs doing it like Auburn. And again, a lot of the attention, a lot of the national media hype will go to the guys like Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Walker White. You take a look at guys like Jamonta Waller, Amaris Williams, and then Jared Smith, Antonio Coleman. I mean, what Auburn is doing along the front seven is going to lead to one of the more dominant defenses that we see in the SEC over the next couple of years. You make no mistake about it. Hugh Freeze, he knows the recipe to win at the highest level in the SEC. Not only having a good offense, we trust that Hugh Freeze is going to get that going. You got to have an elite defense, specifically along the line of scrimmage. Jared Smith getting added to this program, massive storyline for this Auburn team. Want to get into Jared Smith, talk about what he brings to this Auburn defense. Before we get into it, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, to the Auburn fans. You guys all leaving the War Eagles in the comment section. That stuff, it truly does mean the world. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. I've had just an absolute blast talking all these commitments over the last couple of weeks. And without further ado, let's get into Jared Smith. I think you got to start with the physical traits. We've talked about Jared Smith extensively over the last couple of weeks. This will be our first time diving into the film. When you come to Jared Smith, I think it just starts with God don't make many like Jared Smith. I mean, this kid from a physical traits, body makeup, was born to rush the passer in the SEC. 6'6.5", 235 pounds, extremely long in the arms. Great first step off the line of scrimmage. When you start combining the length that Jared Smith has and then the juice he has off the line of scrimmage, he is going to be a problem athletically for a lot of offensive linemen trying to deal with Jared Smith. Now, I think what's so fascinating about Jared Smith is I don't even think he's close to maximizing what he can be as a football player. A slender frame right now, and needs to continue to put some weight onto that frame, which I think we're not too worried about. Now, he's 6'6.5", and there is plenty of frame to add some muscle to and some weight to over the next couple of years. I think more importantly, just as a football player, I think Jared Smith can use a little bit of more of that length effectively. And I think that also makes sense too. I mean, this is a young kid that is growing into his body, starting to learn how to use that body a little bit more effectively. And I think what's so fascinating about Jared Smith is you go into the high school film and say, yeah, this kid's a pretty dang good football player, but he can be an elite football player once he starts using that body just a little bit more effectively. You get into the film, and I think it starts with the juice off the edge. I mean, his first step off the line of scrimmage, and then you combine that with the length that he has in the arms. There's just not many tackles that can get their hands on Jared Smith. You start rolling through the film, his ability to attack that outside shoulder, use that length, just not let tackles get hands on him, and then run the arc. You see a little bit of the closing speed here, plays with the high motor. Those are all the things that you're really selling for Jared Smith. Now, I think what you want to say is you want to see it a little bit more consistently from Jared Smith. I think there's a little bit more physicality that he can add to his game. But again, I think you're starting on just those pure traits. This kid was born to play in the SEC, born to rush the passer. You can teach him how to be a good football player. You can add a little bit more weight onto the frame, but you can't change the body. And you look at Jared Smith with the body, that's what you want to bet on. You continue to roll through the film. Again, his ability to get off the line of scrimmage for that size and attack outside shoulders is kind of next level. And then just using a little bit more of that length to further what you can do athletically, that's what you want to see. But again, running the arc, getting the quarterback. This kid is extremely long tackles, really struggle to get hands on this kid. That's what you're betting on. And I love the hip and ankle flexibility. I mean, he's a guy that can turn the corner. That is hard for a lot of these long, lengthier edge rushers to really turn that corner, run that edge. Jared Smith shows that ability to get that done. The flashes for Jared Smith are very, very exciting for Auburn fans. And again, you see the closing speed, and you see the ability to go get quarterbacks when they try to break the pocket. That is something very, very important. You continue to work through the film, the same team. I had these tackles clearly a little bit shorter. You just couldn't deal with Jared Smith. Nasty spin move coming here. Again, so many different ways that Jared Smith can get after the quarterback. This kid can develop just an endless tool bag of pass rush moves to get after the quarterback. I think that's what you're most excited about. Again, continuing to win on the edge, just racking up the sacks against this team. These tackles, they really don't stand a chance against Jared Smith. And he's a guy that I think what's really fascinating about Jared Smith, and again, running that corner, bending that edge, I think he could play the jack, but I think there's a lot of growth potential for him to just kind of be a down lineman. Kind of be like a Keldrick Falk, where he has a very similar frame. Keldrick Falk came into Auburn a little bit more physically developed. There's a lot of different things you could do with Jared Smith. I love his ability to get in the backfield. Now, you want to see him be a little bit more physical, taking on blocks. But, man, when he gets into the backfield, he's a guy that can go make plays on the football. That's another thing that you absolutely want to see. And I think one of the more fascinating conversations for Auburn in this 2025 cycle, look at the state of Alabama. I mean, the state of Alabama on the recruiting trail is running through Auburn. That's exactly how you want it to look. And you even look at a guy like Naheem Offord. I wouldn't be surprised to see Auburn get that one done. You start scrolling down to the next highest ranked, Zion Grady. Again, Auburn is certainly still in that until pen hits paper for Zion Grady. We kind of talked about this when Kalen DeBoer took over at Alabama. Was that going to open the door for Hugh Freeze on the recruiting trail? Now, Alabama's taking care of business on the recruiting trail as well, but if Kalen DeBoer is not going to recruit the state of Alabama, I mean, Auburn is going to have a field day with some of this top talent. Auburn building from the state of Alabama. I love to see it. And you take a look at the 2025 cycle, a top 5 class in the country, only going to get better once they add Jared Smith into this ranking. You love the front 7. And you look at Malik Autry, Caleb Falk, Jordan Crawford, my personal favorite, Antonio Coleman. You stack that on top of guys like Amaris Williams and Jamonta Waller. What Auburn's doing on the defensive line, that's my biggest takeaway. Again, I kind of trust, when Hugh Freeze took the job at Auburn, I trusted that Auburn would have an elite offense. Now, it might take a year or two, but that offense is going to turn around under Hugh Freeze. I think all Auburn fans certainly understand that, but you take a look at what they're doing on the defensive side of the football, what has kind of separated teams like Georgia and Alabama over the last decade in the SEC. It largely has been line of scrimmage play. I think Hugh Freeze certainly understands that, and he's addressing it. And when you have a front 7 that I think is going to be as dominant as Auburn's is going to be over the next couple of years, it gets really easy to play defense where you win on first and second down, stopping the run with a really good front 7, and then you can get after the passer on those third and long situations. That's the recipe that Georgia and Alabama had to use. That's the recipe that Michigan used in 2023. And that's the recipe that we're going to see Auburn use over the next couple of years. A ton of talent coming into this Auburn program, specifically along the front 7. That's going to be a difference maker for Auburn over the next couple of years. We'll close it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. The support means the world to the boys, and we'll talk to y'all later.